If you're an HVAC technician and a call comes in, Grainger knows that you need a partner that helps you find the right product, fast and hassle-free. And you know that when the first problem of the day is a clanking blower motor, there's no need to break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product details, you're confident you'll soon have everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The pavement fractures as crossroads glitch into existence. Part city streets, part dreamscape, flickering like a loading screen stuck between realities. Neon pixels stutter in the air just as the moonlight glares. A bass note hits like a shockwave. A scrappy fighter steps forward, confidence rising with every combo. The world around him reacting like it's keeping score. From the opposite side, shadows stretch and bend. A white-cloaked figure steps forward as the moonlight sharpens, his presence heavy, deliberate, and not entirely singular. One's a brawler who turned heartbreak into extra lives and learned to weaponize persistence. The other, a lunar-powered vigilante fueled by fractured identities and divine vengeance. Indie grit meets midnight wrath. This week, it's the one-up underdog, Scott Pilgrim. Verse, the Fist of Khonshu, Moon Knight. Tonight, we step into the pages of two comic books and straight into a collision zone where indie rock meets ancient vengeance. Welcome back to another matchup from Who Would Win Masters. I'm Sam Proof on all the socials, and in this episode, representing Oni Press, the guitar hero whose only bigger fear than 7 evil exes is a stable relationship, or possibly sheet music, Scott Pilgrim. And representing Marvel Comics, the Fist of Khonshu, the avatar of an Egyptian moon god, a man who puts the ankh in anxiety, the lunar and lunatic, it's Moon Knight. Our guest is an American daredevil, stuntman, pro wrestler, and has an extremely high tolerance for pain. It's Leroy Patterson, the human tack board. Welcome to the show, Leroy. How's the new year been treating you?
That's been great so far. Yeah, can't complain. I got to do some amazing stuff so far this year. Got a new job. We're putting on some amazing shows with this company called NAW, Nearly Average Wrestling.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's been a great year so far.
Cool. All right, now you are going to be representing Scott Pilgrim. Why did you pick this character?
So I'm a huge fan of the film. I watched the graphic novels. I really love those too. But the movie is everything that I've ever wanted in a film. From the music, the action, the characters, the video games, it spoke to me in such a way that no film ever has before or since. So, huge Scott Pilgrim fan.
Yeah,
and happy to
ironically, coincidentally, I actually just read the first of the graphic novels last month. I love the film. I loved it forever.
Sam has
all right.
Bounced out.
Tonight's Sale the Tape is brought to you by the American Council for Microwave Burritos. Let me ask you a question. Can you feel the roof of your mouth? What if I told you there was an easy way to burn it up so that you could finally start feeling something? Well, that's where microwave burritos come in.
Hold on a sec, Sam Proof. Delvin Cox, get out of here. We're doing a battle.
Get. I have to read this dang tape again.
You're gonna start showing up on our videos. Oh, we don't need you for another hour. We're gonna do this battle first.
Damn it. Bye.
Now it's not gonna be till 9:30. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Sam. I do apologize. You're actually doing great on that. I apologize.
I was.
It's just I know Delvin coming in is going to mess up the video, so let's try that again.
All right. Tonight's Sale the Tape is brought to... All right. Tonight's Sale the Tape is brought to you by the American Council for Microwave Burritos. Let me ask you a question. Can you feel the roof of your mouth? What if I told you that there was an easy way to burn up the roof of your mouth so you could finally feel something? Well, that's where microwave burritos come in. Our patented formula to keep the inside of every burrito an ice cube until transforming it into molten lava that will have you saying, oh no, oh God, it burns, and why do I keep doing this to myself? So next time things in life are going too well, try a microwave burrito to bring yourself back down to earth. Tonight's battle is a clash of styles between two very different comic book heroes. On one side, we have Moon Knight, the split-personality avatar of Khonshu. Moon Knight was created by Doug Munch and Don Perlin and first appeared in Werewolf by Night number 32 back in 1975. Moon Knight was originally conceived as a werewolf hunting superhero with silver weapons, and the character interested Marvel Comics enough to give him a solo push and rework as a more heroic character. As most of you know, Moon Knight has his own TV series on Disney Plus, with a new movie planned for him in the future. His opponent is Scott Pilgrim. Scott is a 23-year-old slacker and musician living in Toronto who finds out the new girl he's dating has 7 supervillain exes. These former partners keep showing up and having battles with Scott in unique and interesting ways. Of course, there was a movie directed by Edgar Wright back in 2010 called Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and we here on Who Would Win Masters recommend it highly if you've never seen it. This all leads us to your opponent tonight, Leroy. Like you, he's been a pro wrestler, but unlike you, he's never been in a vampire movie, which officially makes you better than him. It's Ray Stakenas. Ray, what's going on?
Wow, that feels like a very pointed introduction, Sam Proof. Look, am I a little bit jealous that Leroy Patterson was in a vampire movie with WWE's Gangrel? Yes,
pretty good.
Completely, and I'll admit it, I absolutely loved this movie. Leroy, you want to give us a quick plug for it while we've got you here?
Yeah, the After Dark. It should be on Tubi still. It's great. I mean, you could go to Plantain Pictures and on Facebook and everywhere and get yourself a Blu-ray copy. It's a beautiful transfer. It's great. But yeah, it's vampires, it's pro wrestling, it's skateboarders cutting the heads off of people, and I'm in it. So, 4 out of 5 things ain't bad.
You're in it in sort of an extended role, too. And I just wanted to be really, really nice up off the top and really give, because I'm about to take everything from you the entire rest of this match. Right. I am so excited for Moon Knight. We've repped him before. Scott Pilgrim, I've beaten him in a battle before.
Wow.
I absolutely feel tremendous confidence. And I'll say, Leroy Patterson, I know he can go. I know he can do this. I know he can debate and talk on camera. I've seen it too many times before. What I don't know is if Leroy Patterson is going to buckle under the pressure of Who Would Win Masters. I'll know 2 minutes into his point number 1 if I have anything to worry about today or not.
Wow. Well, and on that note, it's time for our rules in under a minute.
Here are your rules for Who Would Win Masters in 1 minute. Number 1, there will be 3 timed rounds with counterpoints allowed. Number 2, characters will have no prior knowledge of their opponent and no outside interference will be allowed. Number 3, keep the characters in character. Outliers and crossovers will be given less weight. Number 4, battles can be won by death, knockout, battlefield removal, or incapacitation. And number 5, after the battle, I will give my unofficial opinion as to who wins and why. However, I am just one voice. It will be up to all of you on our social media and our Patreon to make your voices heard as to who won.
All right, those are the rules. And Leroy, as our guest, you will be starting things off with Scott Pilgrim. 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
All right. Scott Pilgrim, Canada's own Goku with a motivation problem. Well, he is a character from the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels and the 2010 Edgar Wright directed film, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I'm going to jump in right ahead and admit, Scott Pilgrim has some flaws, right? He's a bit of a womanizer, dated a 17-year-old, and as mentioned, he has a huge motivation issue. However, none of that matters here on the battleground. Scott is a master swordsman, a highly skilled hand-to-hand combatant. He can summon monsters with his music, and most importantly, has a video game-centric power set that has taken down so many powerful enemies. He's headbutted so many evil exes and turned their bodies into coins that he could take the bus up and down the streets of Toronto for the rest of his precious little life. Today, I hope to show you, not just, you look at Michael Cera, you don't think he's much, and that's part of the appeal. That's part of his majesty, his magic, his power, his wonderful. He brings so much to the table, okay? Moon Knight, there's some cool stuff going on there, I'm not going to lie, but none of it compares. None of it compares, because Moon Knight is bound by the laws of the normal world for the most part. Yeah, he's got some Egyptian god stuff. Maybe he's just crazy. But Scott has video game powers. I'm going to go into so much of that tonight, but I want you to think about one thing, and one thing only. How do you kill someone who's got so many extra lives he doesn't know what to do with them? That's all I have to say here today, and that's all I'm going to say here today for this round, because there's other rounds. I'm going to go deep into the other rounds, and the other rounds are going to have so many things. I've got so many weapons to talk about. All right, he brings so
Leroy,
much.
You went less than 2 minutes. I need you to vamp for one more minute, please.
I will. Okay, great. Because here's the deal about Scott Pilgrim. He doesn't have to do any of the fighting that he does. He's not compelled to destroy, right? He can walk up to someone and go, ugh, and they burst in the coins. He is insanely powerful. The only thing stopping him from dominating the entire world.
30 seconds remaining.
Other than the 30 seconds remaining, the only thing stopping him is that he just kind of doesn't want to. He's kind of, he'd rather just kind of hang out and like do some band rehearsal and, hang out with girls and talk to girls and try to get with girls and then, freak out and have to get his hair cut, whatever. That is stopping him from dominating the entire world. You put an enemy in front of him and he will take them down instantly.
All right, Ray, it is time for Moon Knight's point number 1. 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
First off, the lack of motivation. I think we absolutely gonna have to delve into that in one of my later points. But I'm going to start with Moon Knight with his pure skill, because I'm going to focus on the Moon Knight. Because when I went to go break down this character, I found out that there's basically 2 different iterations of Moon Knight. There's the one from the 20th century, and then there's the one from the 21st century where he really leans into the Khonshu powers. I'm going to primarily base my argument on the 20th century version because I think it's a more interesting fight. Because pure skill-wise, Moon Knight is somehow said to know every single martial art. If there is a martial art in existence, Moon Knight somehow knows it. You want to talk about video game logic and Toon Force abilities? That's basically what we're rubbing up against with every piece of Moon Knight, because not only does he know that, he knows how to use every single weapon in existence that man has ever conceived of. I don't understand how. Shang-Chi, the greatest martial artist in Marvel Comics, respects his abilities as a fighter. He often fights the Punisher and is shown to have better hand-to-hand fighting skills. This is a guy who can defeat groups of thugs, paramilitary, cultists, heck, neo-Nazis, beats them all with ease, doesn't even have to break a sweat. He also often fights opponents, what I found, this is crazy, he often fights opponents who have been training specifically to specifically beat him. People that have learned his fighting style, trained for years how to beat Moon Knight, doesn't matter. One real interesting thing that I think is going to come up is Moon Knight has a rear defense, like something I've never seen before. He has an almost innate ability for taking down people who try to sneak up and grab him from behind. Spider-Man has tried it and gotten flipped onto his head. Wolverine jumped him from behind and slashed him with his claws and still got turned around and drilled into the ground. Obviously, Moon Knight, being a master of martial arts, knows nerve strikes and pressure points, so he can KO multiple enemies with nerve attacks. This makes his ability to one-shot a guy like Scott Pilgrim very, very high. I'm not going to argue that Scott Pilgrim doesn't have multiple lives. I'm just saying it's like that one underwater level from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He ain't getting through it, no matter how many lives you give him. He also carries some crazy gear with him with what time I have left. Adamantium armor he wears, which is bulletproof and fireproof. He has his crescent darts, which can blow out gas, could be adamantium and pierce things, and even be explosive. And I got to talk about this staff thing he carries. It looks like a baton, but it can turn into like other weapons, like nunchucks or a bow staff somehow. It's also magnetized. It also has a grappling hook, Sam Proof. It also can electrically shock people, and I believe also can do an EMP. So when you get the video games going, we'll just shut the whole thing down.
All right, Leroy, you have 60 seconds to counterpoint, starting now.
Wow, that seems like a lot of things. You know what I mean? Can he also dice French fries? Does he have a cup holder? Does he have forever stamina? Can he go on forever? Because here's the deal. Every time Scott dies and uses an extra life, he comes back fully refreshed. He is ready to go. I don't think Moon Knight can keep going. Even if he's lucky enough to get a hit in on Scott, Scott's just going to come right back and probably insult one of his alter egos, and then boom, he's a pile of coins. You know what I mean?
All right. Good first round. We're already only two episodes into this new season. Ray's already dropping the grappling hook. So I'm going to start grappling with how Scott Pilgrim's multiple lives play into this, but we're going to take a break and be right back.
Have you ever searched yourself online? The results can be surprising, sometimes unsettling, let me tell you. Your phone number, home address, and even details about your family are out there, whether you agreed to it or not. That's because data brokers are collecting and selling your information to marketing scammers, basically anyone who's willing to pay. It's the reason these robocallers know your name and why ads seem to track you across every screen. It is a digital nightmare. Well, Aura could be your solution. You cannot conceive of how many different scummy data organizations there are out there. When I used this service, I was shocked at finding out there are hundreds of places my info could be found. Hundreds! And Aura can shut a lot of that down. And if your identity's ever stolen, you're backed up by $5 million in insurance and 24/7 US-based fraud support to help you recover quickly. Look, other services charge about the same, but they only cover 1-2 areas maybe. With Aura, you get it all. Data broker removal, credit and identity monitoring, device protection, fraud support. It's all in one simple app. Aura removes what's already exposed, protects what's not, and puts you back in control. Right now, you can try Aura free for 14 days when you visit aura.com/remove. That's enough time for Aura to start removing your personal information from these data broker sites. Sign up today at aura.com/remove and get the peace of mind that your privacy, identity, and finances are safeguarded. That's aura.com/remove. Certain terms apply. See the site for details.
If you're an HVAC technician and a call comes in, Grainger knows that you need a partner that helps you find the right product, fast and hassle-free. And you know that when the first problem of the day is a clanking blower motor, there's no need to break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product details, you're confident you'll soon have everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Sam Prue from Who Would Win Masters. We've opened new official channels and we want you there. Follow Who Would Win Masters on Instagram and subscribe to youtube.com/@WhoWouldWinMasters. And on YouTube, click the Visit Community button to leave your 1v1 battle challenges. Leave a comment and you might just hear it read on the show. Be a part of the arena, be a part of the debate. Now let's dive in. All right, welcome back. Let's get straight into point number 2. Leroy, 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
So I'm going to dig a little deeper into Scott Pilgrim here, because there's this man is an onion. There's a lot of layers to this dude. I'm going to break down a couple right now. You see, Scott Pilgrim, in addition to the over-the-top video game fighting style, the sick fighting moves, the sick bass lines, the ability to shatter people into coins, etc., Scott enters this battle with 2 very strong specific abilities. One is the power of self-respect, and the second one is the ability to have extra lives. I'm going to keep harping on that because that's a really big deal. Self-respect can keep his head in the game no matter how crazy Moon Knight seems to be. You see, Moon Knight is going to struggle with split personalities. They're going to try to take over the fight when things are getting hectic, right? Scott, on the other hand, is all about that chaos. All right. He went to the Chaos Theater and destroyed people, right? So chaos is something Scott is very well versed in. So any weirdness that Moon Knight's going to bring his way, any Khonshu absurdities, Scott's got it because he has boss fight strength. All right. The minute he realizes this isn't just some slacker or some dude with a knife or some massive robot guy that he's got to kick super hard, he's going to realize that things are getting serious now. Things are getting scary. He's going to have to level up, right? He's an RPG character, man. He doesn't stay at the same amount of power. When something crazy goes down, he keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger, right? And if he gets taken out, boom, new life, he's ready to go. I don't think Moon Knight can handle that kind of confidence. I don't think Moon Knight can handle that self-respect because, while a very good fighter, so is Scott. And they're going to stay toe-to-toe, and it's going to come down to a battle of wits. And Moon Knight, Mark Spector's fractured mind, I don't think it's going to hold up in the fight against Scott. It's just not going to happen. So here's the deal. I would say it's safe to say that they match each other hand to hand, right? They might have some differences, but they're both bringing a lot to this table. So it's going to come down to a battle of wits. And as we know, Moon Knight can't handle that. He can't hang with that. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not.
30 seconds remaining.
Scott has done so much with such little effort. He had exploded a person just by going, meh. They exploded into coins. He headbutted someone so hard, they burst. They burst into a pile of coins and he had bus fare. That's great for him. He has taken down armies of people just to ask a girl out. And he's taken down 7 super-powered people just to keep a girl that he happens to like. Well, he was kind of doing it.
All right, Ray, it is time for Moon Knight's point number 2. 3 minutes. 3 minutes on the clock. Starting now.
Yeah, I love this motivation thing because that's the problem is Scott Pilgrim, when he fought the 7 evil X's, was deeply motivated because he wanted to be with Ramona Flowers. That level of motivation would not be there with Moon Knight unless somehow Moon Knight also was one of the evil X's. I think that the slacker argument that you keep bringing up, Leroy, works strongly against your character in this one. Yes, he rises to the occasion, but only when he wants to. You'll notice every other aspect of his life, he does not rise to the occasion when Ramona Flowers is not at stake. I mean, he's roommates with a Culkin, for gosh sakes. You know, Succession. What are we doing? Anyway, measurables for Moon Knight, his strength. Even before he became really hardcore with the Khonshu stuff, he punched a guy who was sitting in a car so hard that the door flew off the car as the guy flew through it. That is striking power. One of his favorite things he loves to do is be on the floor underneath his opponent, punch through the ceiling, and grab him like Jason Voorhees around the ankles and surprise him and drag him down to his level. His strength can bend steel bars. So I just don't see him being trapped underneath anything or behind something or trapped in a jail cell at any point. He also has, and this is more of my research, crazy leg power. I've never seen a guy kick like this outside maybe of Kick Puncher. This guy's got some of the craziest leg strength I've ever seen. I've seen him kick steel bars, speaking of which, off and break them. I've seen him kick a gun and have it shatter into a million pieces. And this leads him to a whole series of one-shot knockouts from doing kicks. I could see a way where Scott Pilgrim keeps coming back, rushes in, not too excitedly, and Moon Knight just kicks him in the temple, and he goes down and needs another extra life. Eventually, these extra lives are going to wear out because Moon Knight is the master of the one-shot. I've never seen a guy who just one-shots everybody. He likes to do things economically, and he likes to do things quickly when he's in these fights. And he's not just one-shotted thugs. We're talking about the Purple Man and heroes and villains. He's also one-shotted as well. Let's talk about his speed, because I'm running out of time. He moves faster than the eye can see. He dodges gunfire, not just gunfire, the Punisher's gunfire. And that guy can shoot. He can also hear the click of a gun and react to it immediately to get out of the way. In fact, he matched speed with Werewolf by Night, who is sort of his main villain throughout the first iteration of his career. In durability, he's taken hits from Kingpin, Tombstone, Wolverine's Claws, Werewolf by Night, and he also took a series of hits and explosions from Doctor Doom because he has his wonderful adamantium armor.
All right, Leroy, you have 60 seconds on the clock for your counterpoints, starting now.
Wow, you've said a lot of really cool stuff here. There's some neat things, I guess, that Moon Knight can do. Kicking a steel bar off, wow, it's impressive. Kicking a man through a car door, goodness, that I couldn't do that, so that's got to be good, right? It's pretty cool. But you want to talk about striking power? I'm going to quote Scott right now. He's describing on how he got with an ex of his and what he had to do to even ask her out. He says, I fought a crazy 80-foot tall purple suited dude, and I had to fight 96 guys to get to him too. He was flying and shooting lightning bolts from his eyes. He was totally awesome, and I kicked him so hard, so far, he saw the curvature of the earth. I know that's not kicking a guy through a car door. That's a feat in its own. But to kick someone who's 80 foot tall so hard they enter the orbit and see the curvature of the earth, I gotta say, if we're comparing those two feats, Scott's feats got it. You know what I mean? I think that I wasn't impressed with anything he did.
All right, well, we're going to kick it over to an ad, and we'll be right back to see who kicks harder for point number 3. All right, welcome back. We're going to get right into it. Leroy, 3 minutes on the clock for Scott Pilgrim's last and final point, starting now.
First off, to reiterate something that I just said, I want to kind of go back to a moment, really talk about something here. Khonshu, right? Very cool guy we've talked about a little bit. I really hope he's giving Mark Spector the power to breathe in space, right? Because he is going to get kicked so hard, he'll see the curvature of the earth, just like we just kind of talked about. You know what I mean? Because here's the deal. Here's the deal about Scott. Yes, motivation is an issue to really do anything with his life. But the moment a fight starts, Scott is there. To quote Scott, when speaking to Stephen Stills and they're talking about the Battle of the Bands, he goes, you know bands, I know battles. Scott knows how to fight. Scott, when the fight happens, is ready to go. If Moon Knight was a woman, then maybe Scott wouldn't want to hit her, because we've seen that, and that's fine. But last I've checked, Mark Spector is male, so Scott has no problem destroying this guy. Okay? So here's the deal. We know that Scott, having destroyed 96 people before kicking someone into orbit, has stamina, right? He's got the stamina. And let's say he dies, he comes back fully revitalized. Okay, we got it. That is such an important part to this match. He can one-shot all he wants. Who knows at this point how many extra lives Scott has? He's going through a couple of them, maybe. But Mark's going to get tired. Mark's going to start fighting with himself. And you know what Scott's going to do? He's going to use that to his advantage, because here's the deal. Scott is so level-headed that when faced with Nega Scott, the evil version of himself, his evil alter ego, you know what happened? They didn't argue. They didn't fight. They instantly became friends, and they decided to go get brunch the following week. Has Mark's alter egos ever had that issue? I don't think so. They've never come together. And if they have, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but instantly Scott was able to befriend an evil alter ego like that. Moon Knight, that's a whole big part of his thing, is he wakes up and he's one person, then he wakes up and he's another. You never know what's going on. He's dealing with some issues. Scott doesn't have that problem and can easily use that. What if Scott befriends one of Mark Spector's alter egos? How quickly would the fight shift in that moment? So now he's fighting himself. It may seem like an unfair advantage, but Scott has proven time and time again that he can make enemies out of friends. He does both. But here's the deal. Scott brings so much to this battle. I think you're underestimating.
Yeah, Ray, your point number 3. You have 3 minutes on the clock for Moon Knight, starting now.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about some powers. We're going to talk about some feats, because one thing that Scott Pilgrim doesn't do that Moon Knight does is work in stealth, which is crazy because Moon Knight wears an all-white uniform, an all-white superhero outfit, and he's one of the stealthiest people in Marvel Comics. When Scott Pilgrim regenerates and comes back with his extra lives, he won't even know where Moon Knight is. Moon Knight will be up in the rafters, dropping down to kick him in the back of the head. And Scott Pilgrim, I mean, how many lives are we really talking about here? It's not that many. You know, what does he have? Like 3 lives is pretty normal for a video game character. Maybe we give him up to 5. I still don't think that Moon Knight going to have any issues with it. But let's talk about Moon Knight's powers, because he has something called hypermobility, which is he's acrobatic to the point of it being a superpower. To the point, this is like Shang-Chi's karate is so good it's a superpower. This is what Moon Knight's hypermobility is. One of my favorite things I saw, Moon Knight fought a jaguar, one of the giant cats, and he defeated it and hogtied it. Doesn't really have anything to do with this. I just wanted to say it because it was awesome. But let's talk about some of the super-powered characters that he's had no problem with, because Moon Knight has KO'd U.S. Agent, who, as we all know, is a guy on super soldier serum, I would argue more powerful than Scott Pilgrim. He actually took out Hobgoblin, another super-powered individual. He had him totally bodied like he was in a fighting game, pushed up against the wall, but let him go for story reasons. Heck, he beat Sandman with a fire hose because he figured out that water was going to work in that moment. You talk about if it becomes a battle of wits, Moon Knight can figure out the things he needs to do in order to keep on going and win. And his biggest superpower is massive pain tolerance. This is a guy who you talk about his endurance, and I've been saving it because you keep acting like Moon Knight doesn't have the endurance to bring down Scott Pilgrim in a long fight. I'm here to say he absolutely does. Many times in battle with Moon Knight, his opponents internally question how this man could take so much punishment and not show any evidence of it when they know that they've hit him real hard. Professor Xavier once read his mind, saw how much damage he would take in normal battles, and he was marveling at his pain tolerance because he didn't think it was humanly possible. That being said, he does have his mental defenses as well, in case Scott Pilgrim does some weird mental attack. I think that's possible, but both Khonshu will protect Moon Knight and his dissociative identity disorder. If you get into one of his minds, the other one just takes over. He also takes a piece of any mind that touches his. He did once beat Deadpool. Now, it was in 2010. The only reason for that is because they never fought each other before before that happened, before the year 2000, when the character switched over. But he has beaten people with this Toon Force before who can do things, and he roughed him up in that battle. Final thought, I believe that switching between the personalities in battles is what's going to help him here. If Scott Pilgrim starts coming at him in one way, he could flip the script and come at him in a totally different way. And just like I have to beat all of Scott Pilgrim's extra lives, I believe that Scott Pilgrim has to defeat all of Moon Knight's personalities to win this fight.
All right. Very good. Point number 3. Leroy, you have a final counterpoint. 60 seconds on the clock starting now.
Boy, you said a lot of words right now that didn't amount to very much. Okay, let's break down a couple of things you said here. Let's say the impossible happens and Moon Knight gets a hit on Scott and Scott's dead. Comes back immediately fully refreshed, right? You said that he wouldn't know where he is. Are you saying that Scott doesn't see a giant, blindingly white thing flying down from God knows where? Unless they're fighting in the snow, he's seeing him. It's happening. I'm sorry. It's just, no, that's not, I'm not accepting that as a rebuttal, as a thing. Okay, next. The only way he's defeating Scott is if somehow he gets an early copy of a Final Fantasy game. That would be enough to stop the fight, and he'd have to go and play the game, and it'd be DQ by quitting, right? And then lastly, the moment Khonshu meets Scott, guess who's becoming his new avatar, man? Guess who's getting those powers? He's going to see Scott as a much better vessel for his powers and everything that he brings to the table. Mark Spector's getting ditched.
Is that the sound? It's really soft on my end. All right, Ray, as always, you have not had any counterpoints throughout the episode. You do have an opportunity for a final thought. Take it away.
Yeah, let's talk about this because I looked up the extra lives. And if we talk about Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game, which, we're taking both of these characters out of their respective universes and kind of putting them in a neutral location. So the idea of Scott Pilgrim having unlimited lives probably is not going to be accurate when you take him out of this Evil X environment. The Scott Pilgrim versus the World game, he has 9 maximum lives, which still feels like too many to me, but I think that's at least a number worth talking about because the idea of him never stopping having extra lives doesn't make a lot of sense for a who would win style conflict. Although the idea of Scott Pilgrim being incapacitated for 2 minutes, not dying per se, but just being held down to the point where he couldn't move, say he was tied up in a grappling hook or something, I don't know. That's not going to work on Sam. I don't even know why I said it. The point I'm trying to make here is that Moon Knight's skills are just far and above what Scott Pilgrim has to work with. And Scott Pilgrim is a great character. Every one of you have not seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the movie. I can't recommend it enough. It is an Edgar Wright masterpiece. And I was upset at myself because I waited on it so long before I finally saw it. I only saw it for the first time a few years ago. Upset. Go see it. It's wonderful. But that being said, Scott Pilgrim won't be motivated in this fight against Moon Knight the way he is in his own property. He's not going to have that wherewithal. He's not going to have those ins against the evil X's. You could also argue that Ramona Flowers is superpowered in her own way, and it helps give Scott Pilgrim the strength he needs to overcome all of those evil X's. Well, she's not going to be a factor here because we don't do outside interference in these battles. So Khonshu's not coming down to smite him. And even then, if Scott Pilgrim is taken by Khonshu to be an avatar, he's off the battlefield and Moon Knight wins anyway. I feel like any way you slice this battle, and Moon Knight will slice it, trust me, Moon Knight takes this one down.
All right, gentlemen, this was a great episode. Between all the extra lives and the extra personalities, I have a lot to think about, so I'll be right back with my final decision.
Made 2 figures met in collision. Now let's find out who would win. It's time to hear Sam's decision.
All right, gentlemen, this was a great episode, and I almost wonder with Moon Knight's pain tolerance if Leroy shouldn't have taken him on instead as an avatar. But here's my 2 cents, if you will. On the battlefield of extra lives versus multiple personalities, Scott Pilgrim is the Canadian one-punch king, except for maybe his counterpart in Letterkenny, but he is a slacker to the core. Moon Knight is a master of every skill, but staying in his own head. So the biggest question for me becomes, how many lives does Scott Pilgrim have, and is Moon Knight the sum of his personalities? Ray says there was 9 lives in the video game, making him a cool cat, but if this is a straight fight of Mark Spector versus Scott Pilgrim, 5 or 6 lives in of Scott coming back, Khonshu might get impatient and step in. Ray discounted Ramona Flowers as outside help, but does that remove Khonshu from the battle? I personally believe that Moon Knight is more than Mark Spector, and Khonshu will show up. Whether or not Khonshu and Scott Pilgrim head out for poutine and Final Fantasy after the battle is over is yet to be seen, but I do believe the winner of this battle is Moon Knight, with or without Mark Spector. All right, but keep in mind, that is just my opinion. You out there, the viewing audience, the listening audience, have the ability to vote on this on our Patreon. Leroy, sorry to have caused you so much pain. I heard your tolerance was higher than this. But again, it's just my word. There's more people out there. Any thoughts?
I may be physically indestructible, but emotionally I'm not. And I've been hurt here today.
I'm sorry.
Look, Scott,
hold your head up high, Leroy Patterson. It doesn't, it takes a lot to overcome the awesome power of the almighty Ray. And today, you didn't quite have enough. And I don't even think I need Khonshu. I don't even think I need a god on my side when I myself am a god of debate.
Scott could have the Konami code. You don't know. He could have actually 30 lives.
That should have been a point number 2. I was surprised you didn't lean more into, the video game Toon Force sort of elements of it. But yeah.
Scott just has so many layers to him and is so powerful that, it's hard to pick. There's so many. Moon Knight's got a couple, I guess, but, You got
to pick and choose what you go with. And I'm glad I picked and choose the ones I did, and I'm glad you picked and choose the ones you did.
And we'll see. We'll see what the audience says. All right, Leroy, thanks for joining us. Do you want to tell people where they can find you online, or do you want to just hide, like never be seen?
I'm hurting.
Don't find me.
I'm hurting. Okay. You can look up the Human Tack Board on YouTube to see videos of me doing really stupid stuff. I've got another international reality show that I can't talk about yet coming out in a month or 2.
Well, let us know when you can.
You should buy Belly Welly. It is an amazing fiber supplement. It's daily fiber and probiotics, and it tastes good too. That's the important thing. And you should check out Nearly Average Wrestling. It's Nearly Average Wrestling on all the socials, on YouTube. Go see the show at the Elysian Theater. We're doing one on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. Okay, you go to the show, and then you deal with your partner after and whatever you got to do afterward the next day. That's fine. But the 13th is for you, and you should go see NAW. It's wild. It's pro wrestling. It's comedy. There's a dinosaur on stage sometimes that bites people. It's insanity.
That sounds awesome. All right, Ray, any last words before we wrap it up?
No, we're running a little bit long today. And so, I think I'm ready to just take my extra lives and go home, everybody, with Ramona Flowers in tow.
Whoa. All right, well, thank you for listening, and please make your voices heard on our social media and Patreon. You can keep the debate going at Who Would Win Masters on our Discord and YouTube and Instagram. But make sure you're at patreon.com/whowouldwinmasters. You can join for free and get access to awesome things like the backstage links to our wrap-up episodes live and more. Tune in next week as Ray and I go over your votes and comments for this battle. And if you think you've got what it takes to be a part of the Who Would Win Masters challenge, well, that's a thing I just said. Record a 1-minute demo of yourself, a video demo of yourself, and send it to whowouldwinmasters@gmail.com. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in the challenger's chair in the future. For Who Would Win Masters, this is Sam Proof. Stay strong.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.